See how that goes. Alright folks, welcome to the Besides the Norm podcast. I'm Scuba, we're here with Monk.
What's happening?
You cool?
I'm alright, aye.
Nice one. You excited for this podcast, man?
Oh, I'm over the moon for the excitement.
We luckily came across Willie Allan. Sorry, Willie, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, my name is Willie Allan. I've been principal teacher of PE at Buckhaven High School for some 22 years now. And these are two FPs of mine, and I thought I'd come along and lend a wee hand, you know.
It's excellent because we were looking. I think we were trying to get in touch with some people for the comedy festival. Obviously,
Yes.
the Fringe is on right now, and we come across an agent, and we've seen sort of Willie's face on the screen, and I was like, that can't be the same person. And then, like after a few minutes, we were like, I know that he does after dinner speaking.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. So on the absolute off chance, we thought we'll get in touch with the agent. The agent
Brilliant.
gave us your email, and you got back to us.
Brilliant.
Absolutely within quick succession as well. It was quite
Yes.
quick.
Yes.
So thanks, obviously,
Not at
very
all.
much for that,
Not
for doing
at
it.
all. Not at all.
But,
My pleasure.
I want to kind of talk about, what I usually do is talk to everybody sort of about their history and kind of how they started to get into doing the things they do. So your first love was like rugby, or
Yes, very much
So
so,
you
yeah.
want to talk about your kind of background, what you
Yeah,
made you
sure.
got
My
into that?
background is I played for about 13 years at Dunfermline Rugby Club, and the game for me has given me a huge number of contacts and friends that have played at much higher level than me. And I taught at Inverkeithing High School, started there back in '84, and I quickly realised that rugby has got a huge amount to offer wee boys and wee girls. Especially if I came out at Buckhaven High School, and I started there in 1994. As you know, that the demographic of the school is such that there are a number of kids there who are quite angry, you know,
Yeah.
quite aggressive, and rugby is a great outlet for getting shot of aggressiveness. The kids really enjoyed the physicality of the game,
Yeah.
you know, and when I first started it, I had maybe only one team, and we called the boys the Buckhaven Sharks, and they were called that because they wore black and white zigzag gum shields,
Right.
and the mums like the gum shields because it prevents concussion, saves their teeth, and the boys can wear it for rugby as well. So it was great, and I had a number of contacts in the fee paying schools in Edinburgh, where rugby is very much at a premium there. If I tell you, George Watson's College, for example, put out 26 rugby teams.
Right.
Wow.
You know, so, and that's where sport is great. Doesn't matter what your dad does, your mum does. Game kicks off, it's you against your opposite number, or in our case 13 against 13 or 15 against 15. So one team became 2 teams, became 3 teams, became 4 teams, and the Buckhaven Sharks, I think now has had a huge amount of success for the kids, and on the back of that we managed to get the girls rugby established as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
with the formation of Buckhaven.
Is that like a recent thing then?
Yeah, quite recent.
Right.
Buckhaven Sharkettes, they're called.
There you go, perfect.
And a girl started in my apartment called Julie Sanft, who's married to a guy called Quinton Sanft, who played standoff for Samoa. She played rugby for Scotland herself, and you imagine girls rugby players with big bruisers. She's a wee cutie.
Oh.
Fantastic role model for the girls. So we've now got 2 Sharkettes teams and 4 Sharks rugby teams. So it's
That's
great, you know.
Nice.
And they just like spread it for the years and taking
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Is it what about the kind of 6th and 7th years teams and stuff like that? Is it a lot harder to do that since people could leave?
It is, and we tend to find that an awful lot of our senior kids leave Buckhaven in their 5th and 6th year to get a job. Who can blame them, you know? That's no problem at all with that. And also it's quite hard these days with exam commitments and study leave to try and put out a first 15 or perhaps an under 16 side on a regular basis. But we're a school from Edinburgh came through Merchiston Castle. Now that's perhaps one of the most prestigious rugby playing schools in the country, and they came through with I can right in saying 3 rugby teams, 2 football teams, and a basketball team. And so we had a big sports afternoon at Buckhaven,
Nice.
you know,
Nice.
with Bob Moreland pies to finish, you know,
There you go.
the best
Perfect.
pies in Europe. So so that was quite nice, and I've got to say at the outset that I've been able to do what I've done because I've had very supportive head teachers. A lot of head teachers will say, nah, the boys can't play. They can't play, not getting after in school to go and play against all our academy, or Fettes College or what have you. Whereas I've had very supportive headmasters in Dave McClure and then John Lusby and then George Grant, and just latterly we've had Grant Whittick as well. So all these guys have been fantastically supportive of me, you know.
But that's I always remember being at the school, there was never sort of any talk about the football team. It was always the rugby team, and I always thought that pretty weird because it was never a sport that I was ever interested in.
Well,
my granddad, you hung about with a few people.
I hung about with most of the well, not most of the rugby team, but most of my pals were in the rugby team. So I was used to just going into my class and then having nobody to speak to because they were all away.
Did you ever have any kind of like wee breakout stars that kind of left after fourth year and you're like, what?
Yeah, that's quite frustrating. And we had one boy, in fact, two boys that won scholarships to Willie Allan School in their 5th and 6th year. One of whom went on to play for Scotland at under 20, a guy called Josh Laird, centre, and a guy called Willie Murray who played in the wing for the Sharks. And both these guys have benefited enormously. But that is frustrating when guys leave. And it's also frustrating. In fact, I saw him recently, a guy called Craig Thompson who plays for St Johnstone Football Club. The very few boys that I've taught or girls make it as professional football players, but Craig Thompson did, and I've always said he made a fantastic stand-off for the Sharks. But hey, as long as the kids are active, who am I to say you can't be doing this, you know? But I do think that it's easy to play organised football, it's not so easy to play organised rugby, you know? I think.
Definitely. Well, there was another thing I remember as well. There was I don't know if you remember like Michael DeLorean.
Yes, that's
stuff.
right.
They're still quite heavy into rugby. They're doing all that stuff still. I remember them talking about sort of field trips you took them on to, like Hampden and stuff like that. And you got to meet some of the players and stuff. Did you do that quite often with the teams?
We did, and that's where after the speaking comes into its own, because I've always said it attracts sponsorship into school, allows you to impact on those folks that are perhaps less fortunate than yourself. Just recently we took the Sharkettes down to Melrose for a tour, and we did a fundraising function and made £20,000 in one night.
Wow, that's excellent.
And when I took Michael's year, we went to Belfast in 2007, did a fundraising function, made £36,000 a night. So that's when it's great, because it then means the boys and girls get their tour for peanuts. And also when they're in these cities, whether it be Melrose or Belfast, whatever, they don't pay for anything. And they've got a lot of nice gear. C.R. Smith, I'm very friendly with Jarediri, who owns the company. They sponsor all the rugby teams, and it can be quite nice quid pro quo, because Stevens the Bakers sponsor all the football teams. Excellent. So when it comes to things like staff awards nights, I can help out there, not charge a penny obviously, because they've been kind enough to sponsor the teams, you know. So the kids look great, and the strips, in fact, the Sharkette strips were especially nice because the girls designed them themselves, and they were great, you know, really great.
I can imagine that was left to the male PE teachers or something. That would be an absolute nightmare.
They want a lot of pink in it, shall we say? Yeah.
But
I didn't realise that there was a basketball team. Yeah. I knew when I was leaving there was like Conor Grieve and Jack Cairns and that started.
That's right.
Playing basketball.
Jack
I didn't realise it was an actual.
We're probably going to start name dropping names like left, right, and centre here.
That means they need to listen to the podcast now.
Not at all. I think I'm quite unusual in Fife PE departments, because I don't think there was anything that we taught there wasn't a club for. Which then means if you have talented people, you're going to say, hey, you should try for the basketball team, you should try for the table tennis team, softball club, you know, athletics club, whatever. There's something for everybody, you know, so it's great.
I'll give you another instance. Me, John Bishop, and there was a few other
name
people.
dropping again.
Name dropping again, it's going to happen all the time. But there was a few I got in touch with, I think it was Mr. Stewart at the time.
Oh, yes.
They were sort of heavily into skateboarding, so there was a wee bit of skateboarding scene there, and they were like, obviously they're not going to take us skateboarding. No. Maybe we could ask about perhaps getting a wee trip to go snowboarding or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
And that was, I think, the first time I'd ever heard a group of people getting the gear. I'm sure it's happened many times, but the first time I'd actually sort of seen a group of people getting the gear and just saying, we want to do this, is there any chance you could set it up? So that was fantastic. And
tell us, Stephen, how did that snowboarding trip go for you?
One guy broke their leg, and I fell down the hill. So that didn't go too great. I was cake it when I got back, but I enjoyed it. I knew I wasn't going to be any good.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go. They were my pals. I thought I'll go. I'll see what happens.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
I think if you have staff in a PE department that are proactive in terms of offering things at lunchtime, after school, Saturday mornings, that's things you remember, don't you?
That's it.
Don't remember sitting in a maths class or or a science class, but actually the time you played sport. And for me, it's always been more than a game of rugby. I couldn't tell my win-loss ratio. Not interested. What I'm interested in is actually guys keep on playing the game, no matter what level they play at, and having a great time and making them good people, good citizens. That's really why I did it. To be honest with you, And as I said before, the boys, especially the boys, love the physicality of the game.
Aye. That's it. What about if we get into your kind of after dinner speaking?
Yeah.
What was what sort of made you get into that? Was there a sort of, were you working with people at that time?
Well, back in 1992, I'd just finished playing rugby at the Dunfermline Rugby Club, and somebody called my bluff basically because I was always a bit of a heckler at the club dinners and stuff, And they said, "Okay, you're so smart, you do a toast to the SRU, the Scottish Rugby Union," and I had a 20-minute slot, and it went pretty well. So I spent about 5 years in the rugby club circuit. That's a hard training ground,
I can imagine that.
Hard training ground. Guys want to fight you. Bottles of beer getting sprayed over your bread rolls and things, and eventually you leave that. And I think my first black tie event was the Scottish Golf Union through in Glasgow. Gave out some cards, got a website. Before you know it, you're off and running. But it's quite a daunting task, I've got to say. If you ask people, it's maybe in their top 3 nightmares giving a speech in public.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think being a teacher helped here, and a diverse range of youngsters we've got at Buckhaven. There's plenty of learning experiences, shall we say.
Well, I don't understand the want to fight someone who's speaking. That makes zero sense.
I don't think there's a lot of people that can't understand it. It's the drunk people at the time
That's right. It's drink.
That always happens, and it's always drunk people. I've never seen a sober.
I'm glad I'm a happy drunk. No interest.
Yeah.
But that's we were talking about this earlier. The the training ground for after dinner speaking that you would have got at the school.
Yes,
because that's a tough crowd, to be honest.
Very much so, and also it allows you to attract sponsorship into school. And I think a lot of sponsors like sponsoring Buckhaven High School because, as I say, of the demographic where it sits. You maybe don't know this, but my previous boss told me in some parts of Buckhaven life expectancy is 54.
Yeah. I've done youth work, so we had heard some of these statistics at the time.
That's shocking, isn't it? So therefore, you want to impact in kids' lives by making them more active and giving them, for me, what I think has been lifetime memories. I've certainly enjoyed my slot, and that's what, now I've retired, that's what I think people remember me for, is the rugby. They don't remember the lessons and stuff and your higher passes and your standard rate passes. They remember the rugby.
Yeah.
Well, I was never allowed to do rugby, and I remember you for the rugby. So there must be something.
So I ever heard at the school a lot of the time was I never sort of heard about any other sports a lot of the time. Yeah. Obviously, we got planned off with football a few times when it was the kind of.
I was never allowed to play football either.
Yeah.
I've got one kidney, right, and there was someone else in the year who only has one kidney as well. And apparently, I don't know who it was, I was never told. Apparently he used to just use this as an excuse to not do basketball and not do football. Yes, so they would automatically say, well, you can't do it then.
Right.
I like basketball. Primary 7, I was the best basketball player in Primary 7. And yeah,
is that true?
No, that wasn't true. Look at me. I look like I'm good at running about and throwing stuff.
Hey, you seen Shaquille? Well, he is quite fit as well, Shaquille O'Neal, to be fair, but he's a big lout. But again, after dinner speaking, what kind of events are you doing at the moment? What kind of?
Oh, quite diverse. Number of events. I'm inquiring about a golf event, for example, at Archerfield next month. I'm also involved in, I mentioned Stevens and Bakers, they do an award event, for example, in January. I'm doing an event for C.R. Smith indirectly, it's a thing called The Shoot, and it's a place called Otter House, Clay Pigeon Shoot, and it's probably become the ticket of the season. Right. It's a big event. They must have made, up till now, 1.5 million. Serious money.
Jesus.
No, he's not there, no. It's serious money, you know.
Aye, that's insane.
The point is, we're now raising money for the Maggie Centre, Good Cancer Charity, and JDRF, which is type 1 diabetes, which is fantastic, you know. So, and again, I think people like bidding for things. I do the auction as well, because obviously they get a bigger bang for the buck with these charities. It's not like it's going into one big huge morass. It's going into quite a small charity. So yeah, it's quite diverse, and that for me is a skill. It's about putting the correct hat on. You don't want to be too coarse, because if folk are sitting with their toes, that's not very good. And I don't think I play that card, and so therefore that's where the corporate work comes from. If you're too coarse and effing and jeffing every second sentence, I would suggest that you're maybe pretty stereotypical,
That's it.
But
the only kind of instance I've seen of one of these kind of after dinner speeches is I used to work at the Leaving Golf Club.
Oh yes.
And who was it? The Tam Killen sort of thing.
Oh yes,
he was fantastic.
Yes.
But I was in the middle of having to serve food at the time, so I was in no time for discussion or to enjoy comedy. I was in a hurry to get out.
Yes.
But that's the sort of first instance I've seen. So it's kind of I think it was like that sports correspondent dinner or something like that.
Yeah,
so I'm assuming that's kind of a lot the same level.
It is, and also you learn to speak from experience. My teaching background helped me to speak from experience there. I'm not a famous footballer. I'm not a famous rugby player. So therefore, you tend to draw on life experiences and bring those to the table. And that's what I think folk quite like, because they can associate with that,
Yep.
I said to you earlier about the fact that you talk about school, because most folk have been to school,
Aye, there you go. That's it.
Maybe not off now for most of them, yeah. But it's a good one to hang it on, because if you're a parent, you've got kids at school, that type of thing, And in fact, one of the lines I've been using is that I talk about methyl, and I said methyl has just been twinned to Las Vegas, because in both towns you get sex for chips.
That's a good point. That's there you go.
That's a well done joke, I think.
It's nice.
Well, thanks very much.
But you've always had an emphasis, even when you were teaching, to kind of play that sort of the jokey vibe sort of thing.
Yes.
Kenny got a lot of that.
Yes.
He does remember that. But I always remember there was
he's in your turf.
How did you feel about coming up here? Were you alright?
No, I don't.
Just watching yourself on the way through.
My mum comes from Valleyfield, so I know about
there you go.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I always remembered at the school. So I was obviously, I didn't know at the time you were doing sort of after dinner speaking. Do you find a lot of people will kind of come up to you when you're working, asking about it?
The kids have been great, actually. I think latterly they might have realised, but I can't think I've ever had any derogatory comments put on the website, for example. Derogatory comments put in by email, and I think a good teacher will get respect. And whilst you mentioned about being jokey, I think humour's a great thing to diffuse potential powder keg situations. Take the steam out of things, and therefore, you take a rise out of Kennedy and methyl, but it's a good one to hang it on, because the kids will remember that, and when you're trying to get a teaching point across, if you underpin it with humour, the kid tends to remember that,
Yep.
Speaking personally,
That's it. So, have you ever had any kind of sort of horrible days when you've had a really kind of terrible day and then you've had to go out and do that at night?
That's one thing, having finished teaching, that there are situations where you may have to deal with some kids that are perhaps disengaged from the educational process, shall we say. And I've been told a couple of times to go forth and multiply. You have to leave that and then go and do your gig, because you must remember it's perhaps one night of many for you, but it's the client's one night. Therefore, you take that hat off, put this hat on, and that's where I think now I'm finished with teaching, I'll be able to concentrate perhaps more on A, writing some stuff, and B, not having the pressures and the stresses and hassles that have gone with being a teacher,
That's it. Because I always imagined that would kind of, because what you do is quite a kind of high level stress job. I would assume a lot of the time.
Yeah. Some of the classes I was in, I felt terrible for the teachers, especially in history, because history seemed to be. I'm not going to name names in this situation, but I was in a history class that wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
And Mr. Fraser just got bullied so bad. He did quite well. He was quite good.
He's quite stern, I would say.
He was quite stern, but he didn't always get a word in.
No.
Because some of the people that I'll tell you later who were in that class, but I felt bad for some of the teachers. It seems too stressful.
I've got to say, I couldn't be a classroom teacher. I quite like being out and about, and I think PE gives a youngster a good outlet for that aggression, you know. As I mentioned earlier, perhaps rugby even more so, but PE generally is an outlet for some of our kids, you know. And I think it's quite a unique environment for many of our kids, you know.
I remember actually one time there was I think obviously like for the 5th and 6th years you used to sort of like more fitness based stuff, so there's some sort of classroom aspects.
Yes.
I remember once, this wasn't at that time, but it was in like a 4th year I think it was, there was one sort of special day. Obviously you get days where stuff just isn't working.
Yes.
There's rain outside.
Yes.
Like all the rooms are full.
Yes.
So we're put in the classroom situation, which was absolutely completely new to a lot of us because we'd been used to being either outside or playing in the halls and stuff like that. And just seeing the PE teachers in that situation in the classroom thing.
I know.
Obviously you've been used to it, but that was kind of weird just seeing.
It's quite weird. It's quite weird. And I think we're perhaps maybe in danger now of maybe too many classroom situations happening.
Right.
Whereas PE for me, I was always taught by my previous principal teacher, let's leave the kids laughing and sweating, you know. That's not a bad way to be. And when my dad was alive, he had a good saying. He said, always remember, son, I've read lots of cowboy books, but I still can't read a horse yet. You know what I mean? So sometimes we've got to get the kids up on the horse and just get them doing the actions rather than talking about it, get them doing the thing, you know. And I think now perhaps there's maybe too many classroom sessions.
I think one thing I wanted to compliment the LPE department on quickly was the way you were able to get sort of everybody out dressed, well, obviously undressed, ready for starting, and then back in. Yeah. In that small amount of time, but it's only 54 minutes a period or something like that.
And the youth school has been cut to 45.
Is it?
Yeah, which is a shocker. Absolute shocker, yeah. Far too.
How long is that more periods, or is it just a shorter day at school?
I think there's slightly more periods, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, slightly more periods.
I don't know how that would work. 45 minutes.
I know.
Aye.
Because it seemed to be a rush in the 54 minutes.
Well, that's I remember being late to a few classes before, and then they were like, "Oh, they fucking like PE and stuff like that." Obviously, because obviously there's always going to be a point where the teachers kind of like, "Oh shit, no, I forgot the time," sort of thing. Yeah. And obviously that kind of maddened everybody else for some reason. But you kind of have to get changed, man. We can't just come up all sweating and food dirt.
I know.
But that was crazy. So you've been doing, after speaking since 1992, you've been saying? 92,
yes.
Yeah. You any sort of idea how long this is going to last? Are you just going to keep going until?
Well, I'm looking forward to having a chance and having some time to write some material. I've got a friend of mine, a guy called Brian Kyle, a former history teacher at Buckhaven High School in Dunfermline, and we sit down together. In fact, he's coming to see me on Thursday, and we're going to sit down and we put stuff backwards and forwards. In fact, I remember spending about 15-20 minutes writing a whole skit on the circus, right? And he had a good line. He said the contortionist in the circus, it's a guy called Willie Snappet, right? And he said he took a heart attack halfway through his act and died in his own arms.
I like that one, that's good. I like that one.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's a pretty good joke as well, I'll give you that.
Pretty good, eh? Pretty good, that's fine, okay.
I still think I prefer the Las Vegas
really
one.
Unimpressed, man.
I still think I prefer the Las Vegas one, because that was ridiculous. That was
Is that because it's got methyl in it and you hate methyl so much? Or?
No, it was the play on words with chips, and it was just...
Fair enough.
I like it.
Excellent.
Good.
So what were we talking about before? You were... you're kind of...
I look forward to having some time to write some stuff, and also I want to put... I've got ambition to write a book. What it's going to be about, I don't know. But I've a whole lot of life experiences in terms of my parents had a pub for 50 years. My dad worked in the pit. My mum came from Valleyfield, you know, and then I've been teaching for 32 years, and a number of functions I've been to over the years. So I want to put things down on paper. Whether it turns into a book, I don't know. But there's a number of stories I've got up here that I want to put down and make sure it's saved, you know. But I really quite enjoy working with Brian Kell. He's a very funny guy in his own right, but it just goes to show that after they're speaking or giving a speech in public, it's not for anyone, because he's funny, but he's not funny in front of 200-300 folk, you know.
That's a great thing to put. We've talked about like ghostwriting before.
Yes,
and we as a different aspect we've talked about in kind of writing like rap music and stuff.
Oh yes,
but you have the ghostwriting aspects for books writing and kind of comedians and stuff like that. Like Rod Gilbert traditionally works with another writer as well.
Yes.
So they write stuff together. As you were saying, you do the same.
Yes.
But there are people out there that are able to kind of write lines like that perfectly, write great jokes.
Yes.
But they just don't have either kind of a certain charisma,
Well,
maybe too embarrassed to go on stage.
We were talking about this with Top Gear. Writing specific, you could write lines for days, but if it doesn't work well with the person that's saying the jokes, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
No matter how good the joke is, it's never going to.
That's it.
It's delivery, isn't it? And certainly my delivery when I first started back in '92, I used to practice with a video camera, and I've still got tapes of myself, and it's just appalling. Looking back in it, it's appalling. It was actually okay, but in my mind it was appalling. A bit like, I suppose, an artist when he looks at a painting he did when he was maybe 17, 18, that type of thing. So, and it's definitely something you can get better at, but I do believe you have to have something intrinsic in there to do it.
Well, a lot of that's working on the job as well, because until you get in front of a crowd of people,
yes,
and kind of work off of what they're doing, it's the same with DJing, obviously in a slightly different aspect.
Yes,
you're kind of working with the crowd and what you're doing, so you have to kind of really. There's a whole different atmosphere. Yes, like if you're standing in front of a camera, you're kind of judging yourself.
Yes,
but if you're looking into a crowd, you've got a crowd judging you, and then you've got like sort of certain atmospheric. Things
you're also biased when it comes to yourself as well.
Absolutely.
People would think that you'd automatically assume you're good, but most of the time you'll think you're rubbish when you're generally fine. So there is that aspect where you're going to be watching.
How long did it take you to get to a point where you were like, actually, right, I could do this?
I think perhaps those 5 years in the rugby club circuit were a good training ground. After that, I thought, I can do this. But again, what you were saying there about having a distraction, a full-time job, because teaching for me has always been not working to contract, but doing stuff out with the contract. That's what the kids remember, whether it be an after-school club or lunchtime club or Saturday mornings. I've always viewed that as part and parcel of the job. But there are certainly situations where I've had things on my mind. I've had to put that to one side and concentrate on the job in hand, because it could be a big client like PricewaterhouseCoopers, it could be Coca-Cola, that type of thing, or it could be 100 guys who are crammed into a wee miners' welfare club who are raising money for a kid who's got a major disability, and why shouldn't you work as hard for them as the Coca-Cola function?
Absolutely. You've been all over the UK doing this as well?
Yeah, I've been in London and Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle, been across to Ireland. So again, I might be able to do a bit of burn supper stuff,
All right, aye.
So again, the expat community, and not having the teaching now, I've had to knock back a number of functions because obviously I've been working, but not having that commitment will then mean I'm able to perhaps take these functions on board.
You actually, I totally forgot you spoke about auctioneering. I wanted to ask you a question.
Oh yes, sir.
Do you do the kind of fast speech stuff? Are you able to do that?
A wee bit. I think if you look at the website, sometimes I'll describe myself as my auctioneering style as legalised extortion, and again, it depends on the item. Obviously, it depends where you are. Depends who's in the room. But if people appreciate that the money raised is going towards a good cause, such as, for example, the Sharkettes tour or the Sharks tour, they understand the money is going to go towards that. So it's nice to have something finite to hang it on.
Definitely.
For me, anyway.
Right, we've got 5 minutes. So right, just checking time. I think we'll start to finish off about here. But have you got any stories that you can tell now that are sort of based from the Buckhaven? Sort of high school setting that you tell.
Okay.
Obviously, you don't need to tell the whole story, but
not at all. For example, the rugby ones have been fantastic over the years in terms of giving me stories. We played against Fettes College, the most expensive fee-paying school in the country, and we kicked off at 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon because the kids at Fettes have got prep in the morning. Okay,
right.
So these are the sort of boys that think. A crash is a collision between two cars, right? Okay. That's not bad, is that
That's
right?
great.
That's all right.
Okay. So I've always encouraged the boys to talk to opposite number, so they get a meal afterwards with cutlery, so major pressure there. And so I'm behind there watching the guys interacting. Me first year boy from Ethel, talking to his opposite number. He says, "Where'd you buy the boot?" And the Fatesian said, "I didn't understand it." Where do you bury about? Much slower, please. Where do you stay about? He said, I stay in the school.
Oh.
What? He says, I stay in the school. You're not going here, man? And the boy says, no, I'm not actually. He says, Mr. Allan, that's what I call detention.
That's excellent, man. Excellent. Yeah. Let's say, where's that school about?
Fettes College. You know, it's the big one in Edinburgh. It's got the big turrets. It looks like Hogwarts. In fact, when the kids got when the kids got out the bus, they were all taking photographs. In fact, it was going to be used for Hogwarts until they came up to another place, and Fettes College turned it down. So
Jesus.
But that's where it's great because when it came to Fettes College doing a fundraiser to raise money for the tour, I was able to do that. But I said, okay, I'll do it. But the kids want some fixtures, you know. So we've got fixtures as well. So
it's quite a fun idea though, to know that there's people in Methil that have never met somebody that's so upper class. That's quite a fun.
One thing I was actually worried about was that if you're like sort of doing like that kind of high class dinner after dinner speaking, and you go and tell that joke, they might have kids at that skill, and you're just.
But the thing is, you know, that's where I think it's quite important for our kids to go through to a place like George Watson's College, Dollar Academy, Merkerson. Because at the end of the day, kids are just kids, you know.
That's it.
Doesn't matter how much money they've got in their pocket. And then, of course, as I said to you before, we couldn't cope with the best fee-paying schools in the country in terms of top teams. But if Watson's put out 26 teams, we can play against their third best team, their second best team, give them a really good game, you know. So it's all about finding that level, isn't it, you know. So, and it's good for our kids to see that perhaps there is something out beyond the Methil.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Kennedy conurbation, you know. Why shouldn't they have that, you know?
Definitely. So, are you got any kind of last things to say? Any kind of things to plug? Any gigs going up?
No, I'm very happy. Actually, I'm very pleased to be here. Very pleased to help out 2FPs, and I hope it goes well for you.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
That's perfect.
How was